Welcome to The Deciding Point, our Cracked Racquets weekly breakdown of the biggest storylines happening throughout the tennis world. This week's episode, going to focus on the 2021 Wimbledon, in particular this edition of the show. Going to focus on the results we've seen on the men's side. It does feel like that continuing generational shift, that changing of the guards. Yes, Novak Djokovic is on top of the tennis universe, but you look at guys like Hurkacz, Matteo Berrettini, Denis Shapovalov, the new semi-finalists at Wimbledon challenging him. 6 of the 8 quarterfinalists at Wimbledon, first-time quarterfinalists at the event. Of course, the other 2 being Novak Djokovic, Roger Federer. But we want to explore all of those themes, all of those topics on today's show. With that in mind, Westoff, roll the credits. Let's get to it. What is one of the takeaways from this 2021 Wimbledon men's singles event? For me, it's that the future of the ATP Tour, it's really freaking tall. You look at some of these names, in particular the next geners working their way up towards the top of the rankings, or the guys who have already solidified their spots inside that top 10, top 5 range. It's guys like Daniil Medvedev, who stands at 6'6", a guy like Stefanos Tsitsipas, 6'4", a guy like Alex Zverev, 6'6", Matteo Berrettini, 6'6". You look at the list of these next geners who have had success here already in 2021, or had success here over the past 3 or 4 seasons. Here's the list of guys who are over the 6'4" height range. You've got Daniil Medvedev, Stefanos Tsitsipas, Alex Zverev, Matteo Berrettini. You've also got Miami champion, Wimbledon semifinalist Hurkacz, Karen Khachanov, who obviously loses 5 sets, quarterfinals. FAA, 4-set loser, quarterfinals of this Wimbledon. You've also got guys like Bublik, like Opelka, like Fritz, like Sebastian Korda, who was probably one of the biggest winners of week 1 of this Grand Slam, one of the rising stars in the men's game. You want to go a little deeper down the line, you've got guys like Lloyd Harris, who has solidified a spot in the top 50, a guy like Alexei Popyrin, a quiet 6'5", but that serve, that forehand, he's established himself as a top 100 player. You can even, if you really want to go, I don't know if they're next gen anymore, he's my age, a 1995er, but a guy like Nick Kyrgios, who obviously that height, what it allows him to do with that serve, hit down on the ball, his shoulder talent. That's the thing when you talk about the future of men's tennis. It's twofold. A, the list of players I just mentioned, what are the traits they all have in common? They can all crank serves out at 130 miles per hour whenever they really need to, and it's not that that serve is going to go in, but it's that they can hit that threshold, and when it does go in, it offers them the pathway to free points. And as we've learned in 21st century tennis, men's or women's, and honestly this has been the case always, but with the developments in technology, and it's become the slowing down of surfaces, the amount of returns that are put at least back in play continues to increase. If you have that first weapon, that big first serve that can earn you some free points over the course of a match, things are just going to be easier for you. And for all of those guys, Medvedev, Zverev, Tsitsipas, Berrettini, Hurkacz, even Bublik when his serve's landing, Opelka, they're all top 15 players in hold percentage, and when you have that part of the game come so easily to you, it allows you to take chances as a returner. Now, a lot of those over 6'4" guys are a little bit different in terms of their returning, in terms of their game styles. You have guys like Bublik, perhaps a guy like Hurkacz, you usually throw in that category as well, high variance, a little bit more aggressive with their returns of serve, but then you add in the length and the fluidity that helps these players on their return of serve. When you're 6'6", just a little easier to reach out on both wings. It's a little easier to, control, redirect, absorb a 130 mile per hour serve coming at you. And there's a reason these guys continue to have success. You look across the board, again, given it's a Hurkacz versus Berrettini final, there's 3 finals here in 2021. Probably all going to feature Novak Djokovic, but they will all certainly feature at least one player who's over 6'4". And I'm not saying there's not a place for players who aren't in that height range. I made a list of that as well, just in case you were curious. It's guys like Dominic Thiem and Andrei Rublev, Yannick Sinner, and those guys. I think there's Denis Shapovalov belongs in that conversation. They have an extreme athleticism to themselves, where that even at 6'1", 6'2", the torque and the spin and the pace those four guys can generate, just blessed with those, God-given shoulders, blessed with that contact point that's so brilliant, and so that they don't have that height, it doesn't matter for them. They're able to make up for it, but sometimes all of those guys, their second serves, they'll hang a little bit short, and it's just the margin of error you have to play with when you are 6'4" to 6'6", it's larger than when you're not. And, again, while those guys I mentioned, the teams, Rublev, Sinners of the world, it's not as though they struggle with their movement, they struggle physically, but, again, they wear out a little bit. It's a little bit harder for those guys, I suppose, to generate free points over the course of 7 matches than it is when you're 6'4" to 6'6", and so, again, and for de Minaur, an extreme speed, but how often do we just see him on his back foot because he can't generate the pace as easily as some of those other guys? Case in point, first round Sebastian Korda at this past Wimbledon. The point being, if you're watching these young players rising up the rankings, if you're seeing the way the game is developing, again, Jannik Sinner is the exception to a lot of rules here. There are going to continue to be players that are under that 6'4" threshold that find successful paths on the ATP Tour, but to compete at the top of the game, to be the elite of the elite, you look at the trend that's emerging at the top of the rankings. Medvedev, Tsitsipas, Zverev, Berrettini, all extreme examples, but even guys like Korda waiting in the wings. There is a lot of height, a lot of length, surprising fluidity from all of those players, but more importantly, a ton of talent. And in my opinion, I think this next evolution of the game is going to be really, really exciting, going to lead to a really fun decade on the ATP Tour.